Hello, Sioux Falls, and welcome to Planning Preview for the month of June. My name is Jason Bieber with the Planning Office at the City of Sioux Falls, and joining me as always today is Bradyn, our Planning Commission Chairman.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Maybe we'll get right into this because we actually have some more items than we had last month, so it's good.
Yeah, it looks like the first one is just an amendment to our zoning ordinance regarding off-premise signs.
Yeah, this is one of those amendments that's actually being led by the council to allow some additional areas throughout the city to be able to allow off-premise or billboard signs, as you see. So they'll be bringing some of those suggestions forward, and that'll be obviously a public hearing, and people can come or they don't have to. So
Very good. Looks like second one is a future land amendment going from Tier 2 to Tier 1 near 85th and Cliff.
Yeah, so this is just north of the new Harrisburg Freshman Academy, where, as you know, as we start getting those schools, we get to see a lot of development there. So this is the area at the northwest corner of that intersection. Just looking to get that to Tier 1, sewer and water is available. Still have a little bit of work to do on possibly some traffic impacts and traffic studies. So we may have to push this one out a month, but that's kind of where we're at. So.
Okay, very good. Next one looks like we have low density right now, looking for high density apartments near 85th in Minnesota.
Yeah, so this is kind of south of Veterans Parkway over in Aggerson's property, so kind of southeast of the Avera Sports Center. Just looking to do some more higher density apartments back there.
South Veterans.
Yeah.
Our next one is commercial going to single family near 10th Street, 600 West 10th Street.
Yeah, so this is actually a vacant lot, and then the person that owns the house to the north, which is in a historical house, bought this lot. And so it's on 10th Street, which is more of a commercial corridor, but with how small this lot is and with it being adjacent to residential, it'd really be difficult for it to develop as commercial. So this person bought it and just kind of want to extend their yard a little bit. So, yeah.
Makes sense. It looks like number 5, agriculture to heavy industrial and conservation. Is this out by Foundation Park?
Yeah, so this is kind of the north end of Foundation Park, so kind of their phase 2 north of the railroad track. So they have some additional land that they need to bring in and get it ready for future industrial development. So
very good. Next one, we got live work to twin homes out near 69th and Sycamore.
Yeah, this is kind of that area south of 69th Street and east of southeastern and west of Sycamore that we're kind of seeing a lot of development, kind of just north where Veterans Parkway is going to come through. So they're looking at doing some townhome development, but they just really want those 20-foot front yard setbacks instead of the 25.
Next one, single family to recreational.
Yeah, so this is the new spray park that we constructed last year at the elementary school that the school district owns. So we've gotten that back from them, platted off and gotten it back from them since it is a city park, and then zone it to rec.
Which elementary school?
I think it's Hayward. Yep. And so then we zone it to rec because that's what we have all of our parks zoned as. So
makes sense. Yeah.
Great improvement to that, something nice for that neighborhood and for that school site. So
for sure. Looks like the last one is a conditional use permit for accessory dwelling.
Yeah, so we got a request for an accessory dwelling unit kind of east of the house. This gentleman has a corner lot, kind of a big lot in the back behind the house. He's got kind of a lot of landscaping and kind of some water features and things, so really didn't want to put it and wreck that area. So this would be to the east of the house, and this would be, I think, for his daughter who has some special needs. So yeah.
All right, that looks like everything for this month.
Yeah, thanks for joining us as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And stay tuned, Sioux Falls. After the break, we'll have Beth, one of our plans examiners, on to talk about Building Safety Month.
Hey, this is Seth with the City of Sioux Falls Housing Division. I'm here today with today's Home Maintenance Minute to talk to you about your air conditioner and how to take care of it. So one thing that I like to do once a year is to make sure, first and foremost, that your disconnect is turned off. All air conditioners should have a disconnect on the outside as well as on the panel. So you want to turn the breaker off at the panel, turn your disconnect off outside, and then you know there's no electricity in the unit. Okay, then if you look on the top, there's 4 bolts that hold this fan assembly on. If you take those bolts out, lift this assembly out and off and over to the side a little bit, just take a simple garden hose and go in around the fins on the inside of the unit and spray water from the inside out. And so if you look on the outside of an air conditioning unit, there are fins. It's much like a radiator in a car, and they get clogged. They get clogged with cottonwood, trees, debris, and leaves and dirt and dust. And simply going in from the inside and pushing that material out with water will clean that up, and it'll keep your air conditioner running much longer. Thanks for being with me today with today's Home Maintenance Minute.
Welcome back to Planning Preview for the month of June. Joining me now is Beth, our plans examiner with our building department. So thanks for joining us for this month.
Thanks for having me.
So we got you on here because it's Building Safety Month. So tell me a little bit about Building Safety Month.
Building Safety Month is May every year, and it's sort of declared Building Safety Month by the International Code Council, and that's the body of building officials that develop code.
The building code and
Yes.
electrical code. And so you guys, our building department, you're under those codes, correct?
Yes, the international codes.
Okay, and
Yes.
which international codes do you guys follow?
Well, there are a lot of international codes, but we only adopt a handful of them.
Okay.
The main ones: the International Building
Okay.
Code, International Residential, and then International Mechanical Code, Fuel and Gas, Fire Code. So there's a list.
There's a bunch of them, and
Yeah.
then how often would you say that your department updates those? Like the International Building Code, like how often do you update that?
So the International Code Council is the one that publishes these codes and develops them, and they republish every 3 years.
Okay.
And we try to adopt the year after it basically comes out.
So,
they
okay.
need some time. Once it's developed, they need some time to print it and send it out. So it usually, and it's a process to get it adopted. So it usually takes about a year. So it's about a year behind when the code actually comes out.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I always hear you guys talk about the code is the relationship you have with like our home builders and our realtors and stuff, that you guys
Yes.
actually go out to them and you guys do what they call some local amendments to stuff maybe that makes sense nationally but maybe doesn't make sense locally, based on cost. It raises the cost, or we don't deal with earthquakes here, or whatever the case may be.
Right. Yes, that's very true. We do have a list of amendments that we adopt along with the code, and it makes fairly minor changes to the published code, and we visit with the local community organizations to make sure everybody, to get consensus and make sure everybody's on board and agrees with the changes.
Yeah, and that, like I said, I think that's great because I know a lot of maybe cities don't have those kind of relationships with their building community. So with these codes that you guys adopt, the international codes, so there's a council with people that are from all over the country that develop these, and then
Yes.
they formulate them, and then do they have to get approved by somebody?
It's a body of officials that come together, and any person can submit a code change.
Okay.
And there are arguments for and against it. The council hears those arguments. It's put to a vote, and so building officials internationally can vote on whether or not to adopt that change to the code.
Okay, and then then when we get that, say the 2025 building code's coming out, right? And we want to make amendments to that, local amendments as we talked about, because we work with our home builders and stuff, then who is the body that adopts our local amendments out of that then?
Our council.
Council, so that would have to go to the city council.
Correct.
If we would adopt the entire document, does it still have to go to the city council? Do they have to approve it anyways?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But then they approve the building code and the amendments.
The
that we
local
move on.
amendments, yes.
So every 3 years you talked about that they update these. Is it a huge change every 3 years, or is it more minor little
No.
things, would you say?
Yeah, it's typically minor things. Sometimes there are bigger changes, but most of the time a lot of them can be a clarification maybe the verbiage was interpreted on a regular basis different than the intent of the original verbiage. So then, you know, they'll come back in. The people that proposed the change in the first place may come back in and say, let's clear up this language a little bit. It's a lot of things like that. If there's a tragedy that happened that, you know, different building codes can help prevent that, then somebody will bring that forward. You know, there are a lot of corporations that are developing different materials and things will bring things forward to be changed. So yeah, it's a pretty broad spectrum of folks that are involved.
So we're obviously fortunate. We're a large city compared to the other cities in South Dakota, right?
Right.
And we're fortunate enough to be able to have mechanical, electrical, plumbing, building inspectors right underneath our roof, so you get all those permits here. What other cities are that you can think of, maybe off the cuff, in South Dakota that use like the building codes, the international building codes? Do they all use it, or do the smaller cities not use it? Or
quite a few, actually, yeah. And we regularly talk with the other building officials in the other cities in South Dakota. You know, if something comes up that they're not familiar with or haven't run across yet, same with us. You know, if we run across something, we kind of take a pulse to see what everybody else is doing to make sure that there's some kind of consensus out there that we're interpreting it correctly.
Now that we've kind of talked a little bit about Building Safety Month and maybe the whole codes that you guys use, you know, to look at plans and all that stuff and what people have to submit plans on, tell us a little bit. I mean, I know most people know, but maybe new to the area or new homeowners, what's the process to get, say, a building permit to finish my basement?
Sure.
If I wanted to do it myself, let's just say that.
Okay. Yeah, as a homeowner, you can submit for a permit for, like you said, maybe a lower level finish is what we would call that. We need to have some kind of drawings that show us, basically what we're looking for is something on paper that tells us what the scope of the work entails, so that we can check and make sure that what you're planning to do will actually meet code and be safe. And then the inspectors can look at the drawings and know what they're looking at in the field to make sure that it's being installed correctly and safely, so that your home is not in danger of you know, fire, wind damage, things like that. I mean, obviously that's going to happen sometimes when it's extreme. Yeah, tornadoes and things like that. But in general, the code is there to provide a minimum level of safety. And that's what we're looking for. So a lot of times we'll ask for drawings, and I know that can be difficult if you're doing it yourself. But you know, something that tells us what exactly it is you're doing, and then come down and visit with us. Call and ask questions if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to walk you through it.
Yeah, and I think you guys, that's one thing you hit on there, is it can be difficult to do those plans as a homeowner, but you're trying to get them to do it correctly, so then when the building inspectors get out there, it's ready to go. I mean, if you can catch that stuff on the upfront, right, and then do it that way.
Yes, that's a good point.
So I think that's great that you guys work with them on that, and that we not only do that, and I always say this about our department, that's fun. I mean, we look at small little garages that are 10 by 20, and then you guys went through the Amazon building, right?
Yeah.
So, like, those are the differences, right? So, like, if I'm doing, tell me how long it would take you if you didn't have any other distractions to do. Like, what's the difference between me coming in and I'm changing a gas station to a dance studio, or I'm building the Amazon building? Like, what's the difference in time frame for those, would you say?
Okay.
For permit review. I mean, off the cuff. I mean, I know.
Yeah, right. And so strictly talking, just from the minute I sit down to review it and do a full review, a change in use would be that first one you mentioned, where you're changing, what'd you say, from a gas station,
like a gas station to a dance studio.
Yeah, that's a change in use. And so there are some calculations involved. You know, we look at how the space is being used, how you can get out of the building safely. We'll look at plumbing fixtures to make sure you have enough restrooms, drinking water, things like that. It really wouldn't take very long probably to do that, maybe this is just a guess, because usually we have lots of distractions in between, but, you know, I would say an hour and a half maybe
okay,
to do
great.
something
Oh,
like
geez.
that, so
Yeah.
not very long.
Yeah.
The trick is that when we have lots of those to do,
Yeah, you gotta-
and then, you know, we have to follow through and do them one at
Yeah.
a time, and so then that creates some of that lag that we have sometimes. But and then a big project, boy, you know, I think I did one recently that I figured out it was about 40 hours.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of the, well, now you guys, when I first started, and you probably too, maybe, you know,
Yeah.
you had the huge roll of plans.
Yeah.
Now it's all on computer, but
Right.
grabbing some of those, you know, were so thick, it was insane.
Yeah.
One of the great things I think you guys have done or started to do, because I knew this used to always be an issue, is what you call the triage thing.
Yes.
Because you'd have people submit their stuff, and if you didn't submit everything, then you guys would kick it back, right? So if I was 30th in line because I submitted my stuff 30th in line,
Right.
you do all the other 30 projects and you get to mine maybe 3 weeks down the line and say, well, you don't have a site plan, and then I'd have then kick it back to me.
Right.
And you wouldn't review it. So explain a little bit about the triage, because I think that's great that you can
Okay.
give them a quick
Sure.
upfront thing. You need this or you're not going to be able to get approved,
Right.
right? So
Right.
go
Yep.
get this, resubmit.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I think it was after COVID, we decided that we really needed to get more information out there about what we need to look at to do a review. So we created some documents that we put on our website that are called submittal requirements, and it's based on what kind of project you might have. And then we developed a triage checklist so that when you first submit your plans, whether you bring them in over the counter or you submit them online, we can do what we call a triage on it, and we take a quick look and go down our checklist and make sure that everything is there that's on our checklist. If it's not there, we tell you right then
Yep, that's
that
good.
you're missing something, and to go back and get those items, add them to your set, and then resubmit. And that's exactly to prevent what you mentioned. You know, we want to. So we have a list. We work very hard at reviewing things first come, first serve, to be as fair as possible. And so when you go on the list to be reviewed, then you know, the idea is that everything is there that we need to do a review. And so when we pick it up, we won't see that something's missing and have to kick it back right away and say, you know, sorry, we're going to need this before we can start our review. And then also related to that, then if you do have corrections on your submittal after we do our review and you have to resubmit, you don't go back to the end of the list. We review it again right away.
That's great. Yeah, and that was a great step that you added. And then the other thing was the residential plans examiner, because I know
Yes.
that was a big, where things were getting stuck for houses. So now you have one gentleman that just reviews kind of houses, and does he do most residential additions and that stuff too, or is it just more of the brand new houses? And
Yeah, no, he would do all residential.
that's great.
You know, the permit techs typically handle decks and sheds and maybe some small garage additions, lower level finishes and things like that. But yeah, he helps them out, and he does new construction additions and that kind of thing too. And I think he's gonna kind of start looking at some of the commercial stuff
oh, really?
too. So,
Good for
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. Like I said, just to be able to evolve and do stuff differently and
Yes.
figure out ways that you're getting, you know, you're stuck on these and this has taken a while, and what's the reason for that, and being able to
Right.
change it. So I got one last question.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Give me your prediction for building permit valuations this year.
Okay.
So what
I
did we
am
do last
sure we're gonna be over $1 billion.
year? Billion. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say 1.4.
Okay, so that's more than last year then, huh?
Yeah.
So we're kind of our norm, you know, I always say, because 2021 was just, or 2022, right? That was when we did
Yeah.
1.9, but that was probably not going to happen for a
That's
long
crazy.
time.
Yeah.
But I mean, 1.4, if we keep going up incrementally like we've typically done, that's great. All right, I'm writing it down.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right.
Don't hold me to it.
I won't tell Butch either. That
Okay, thanks.
So, well, thanks for joining us. This is great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Sioux Falls, for planning preview for the month of June. And just a reminder, the meeting in June is on Thursday, June 6th, not our typical Wednesday. The city council meeting got pushed one day. So we are on Thursday, June 6th. And as a reminder, you can come and talk about anything we talked about today. And we also do have that 5-minute comment period at the end of our agenda to talk about anything planning related. So thanks, Sioux Falls, and have a great day.